You know that feeling when everyone tells you you're wrong, but deep in your gut, you know you're right? In 1972, a woman was locked away in a psychiatric institution for making one terrifying claim that nobody wanted to believe. She kept insisting that the people everyone else thought were dead weren't actually gone at all. They were just waiting. This isn't some urban legend or creepypasta. This is a real case that challenges everything we think we know about life, death, and the thin line between sanity and madness. What makes this story even more chilling is what happened years later when investigators finally decided to listen. Margaret Chen was a 34-year-old librarian living a quiet life in Portland when everything changed. It started with the dreams. Every night, she'd see faces of people from her neighborhood, people who had supposedly died in accidents, heart attacks, even a house fire. But in these dreams, they weren't at peace. They were trapped somewhere, calling out to her, begging her to tell someone they were still alive. At first, Margaret dismissed them as stress-induced nightmares, but then she started recognizing the faces during her waking hours. She'd catch glimpses of supposedly dead neighbors at the grocery store, in passing cars, always just out of clear sight. When she tried to approach them, they'd vanish. The breaking point came when Margaret saw Thomas Hartwell, a man who had allegedly died in a car accident 3 months earlier. She followed him for 6 blocks, absolutely certain it was him. When she finally caught up and grabbed his shoulder, the man turned around. It wasn't Thomas, but the resemblance was uncanny. That's when Margaret started talking. She went to the police, to Thomas's family, to anyone who would listen. She insisted that Thomas and at least 12 others weren't really dead. They were being held somewhere, and the deaths had been faked. The more she talked, the more people thought she was having a complete mental breakdown. Her sister had her committed after Margaret showed up at a funeral, screaming that the person in the casket was a fake, that the real person was still alive and needed help. The psychiatric evaluation labeled her as suffering from severe delusions with possible paranoid tendencies. For 3 years, Margaret remained institutionalized, but she never stopped insisting she was right. She kept detailed journals of her visions, drawing faces and describing locations where she believed these people were being held. The staff treated these as symptoms of her illness. Here's where the story takes an incredible turn. In 1975, a routine investigation into a suspected insurance fraud ring uncovered something horrifying. Authorities discovered a remote facility where people who had supposedly died were actually being held against their will, their deaths faked as part of an elaborate scheme. Among the survivors they found was Thomas Hartwell. When investigators compared Margaret's journals to the actual victims, the accuracy was undeniable. She had correctly identified faces, locations, even specific details about their captivity that she couldn't possibly have known through normal means. Margaret was immediately released, and her case became one of the most documented examples of unexplained intuitive knowledge in psychiatric history. But here's what still haunts researchers today. Margaret never explained how she knew. She simply said they told her in her dreams, and she was just listening. Some cases defy explanation, leaving us questioning the boundaries of human perception and the mysteries that exist just beyond our understanding.